Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our 5th annual Mr. Community Contest. We are down to 3 finalists, and they have just one more question to answer. But first, let's introduce them. First, we have Henry David Thoreau, originally from a random cabin in the woods. Oh, just kidding. He's from a small town in Concord. Next, we have Martin Luther King, joining us all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. And lastly, we have Dinar Mengistu, coming to us from New York, but originally from Ethiopia. Okay, so you've met them now. Let's get them up here on stage. Henry, if you would. Welcome, Henry. So we have one final question for you. Are you ready?
Yes.
How would you define the relationship between individual and community?
The relationship between individual and community. Well, the actual definition of community is a group of people that have similar interests or live in the same area or, like just stuff like that. And I feel that, living in the same area does make us community. But, the biggest community that we all have is that we live in Mother Nature, we live in Earth. And I think that people just, let it pass you by that, people don't take care of the Earth, and eventually we're not going to have a community. And once we don't have the biggest community, what are we going to do?
Okay. Anything more to add to that?
Just people need to pay attention to Earth. It's our biggest community. It ties us all together.
Okay. So as an individual, you're tied to the community through Mother Nature and Earth.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
All right. Tough act to follow, but next up, we have Martin Luther King. Mr. King, would you please join us up on stage?
How are you today?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm good.
Now, Mr. King, how would you define the relationship between individual and community?
Well, to be in a community, you obviously do need individuals. So, I think that as an individual, we all really need to look at each other and think, what do we have in common? And the number one thing that I think of when I think of a human being is that we are all indeed equal. So I think that if more of us realize that we are all equal and we all have the same value, that it will all bring us back together and it'll be one big community that unites us.
Okay. So as people that are equal, that should bring the community together.
Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely moving. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And last but not least, let's welcome Dinar Mengistu. Sir, would you please come up here on stage, please? Welcome, Dinar.
Thank you.
How are you today?
Good, how are you?
And our final question for you is the same. How do you define the relationship between individual and community?
That's a tough one, because as you know, I did move around a lot as a child. And it was always so hard for me because I would make these great relationships, but then I would end up moving and it would be like I was never there. And I felt like I never had real ties with anybody. And it was awful, but, I realized that, I'm not the only one with this problem, which is where the relationship between the community came in. When I was, at a place, I would see people, walking their dog or mowing their lawn, and I would think, oh, that's stuff that, we would do. That's stuff that I do. I mow the lawn all the time. But once I realized that we don't need, a community isn't only just where you live. It can be, but it's not only. It's what you have in common with people. And I realized that I do have that in common with some people. So the relationship between an individual and community is what you make of it.
Okay. Anything to add to that?
No, just know you're not alone.
Okay, very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, give a round of applause for our finalists. All right, we are bringing up our deciding judge now to deliver the results. Lisa, let's hear it.
Hello, everybody. I am here to deliver the results of the Mr. Community Contest. But it will not be one winner. Our 3 finalists all have a very different but correct idea on community and in the relationship between a community and an individual. Community can be anything. It is that we all live in Mother Nature. It is that we all have, we all have things in common with people, as Janah said. And Martin Luther King couldn't have said it right. We are all equal. So that is our final answer. Thank you for tuning in.